Okay, so today we're going to be looking at lesson 38. And this lesson, it presents holiness in a way that, well, honestly, it might surprise you.
Okay.
It's not just about, being a good person.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that holiness is a force that can actually, change our reality.
Oh, wow. That is interesting.
It is. It's
Yeah.
really kind of pushing us to think beyond what we normally think about when we think about the word holiness.
Right.
The first point, I think, really sets the stage for the whole lesson.
Okay.
Your holiness reverses all the laws of the world. It is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a son of God, at one with the mind of his creator. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. Through your holiness, the power of God is made available. And there is nothing the power of God cannot do.
Whoa, that's a lot to unpack there.
It is, yeah.
But I think the idea that holiness can reverse worldly laws is, pretty radical. It challenges us to consider how things that we usually see as just, fixed and unchangeable, like time, distance, even physical limitations, might not apply in the context of holiness.
It reminds me of,
Yeah.
when I was on vacation recently, I was looking out at the ocean, and I had this feeling of, limitlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how I told you about that? That feeling of being connected to something so much greater than myself.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. It's It was really powerful.
Yeah, and that feeling really ties into this idea of being a son of God,
Okay.
which is a big concept in Course in Miracles. And it's not about a literal father-son relationship,
Right.
but it's more about recognizing our inherent connection to this divine source, this source of limitless potential.
So how does this idea of holiness as a source of power,
Yeah.
how does that play out in our daily lives?
Well, the lesson goes on to state that through our holiness, God's power becomes available to us. So it suggests that we can tap into a source of strength and ability that is honestly far beyond what we normally perceive as possible. It's about recognizing the power within to face all those everyday challenges and
Yes.
overcome obstacles.
The second point seems to build on that idea.
Okay.
Your holiness, then, can remove all pain, can end all sorrow, and can solve all problems. It can do so in connection with yourself and with anyone else. It is equal in its power to help anyone because it is equal in its power to save anyone. If you are holy, so is everything God created. You are holy because all things he created are holy, and all things he created are holy because you are.
Wow, so much there too. What's really interesting to me, though, is this emphasis on interconnectedness. So if holiness resides in everyone, how does that change how we view those who might be causing us pain or behaving in ways that we disagree with?
Yeah.
Does it shift our perception of difficult situations?
It really does.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think about holiness not as something we earn or achieve, but as something that's already present in all of us.
Okay, yeah.
It makes me think about that time on vacation when I helped that lost child find their parents.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't like this grand gesture or anything,
Yeah.
but it felt good to offer help.
Absolutely. And that simple act of kindness, that could be seen as an expression of that shared holiness that the lesson describes.
Okay.
It highlights how holiness can manifest in practical, everyday actions.
Yeah. And the third point seems to move us into the practical application of this concept.
Okay.
In today's exercises, we will apply the power of your holiness to all problems, difficulties, or suffering in any form that you happen to think of in yourself or in anyone else. We will make no distinctions because there are no distinctions.
Right. So the lesson guides us to actively engage with this idea of holiness, not just think about it abstractly.
Right.
It suggests that we identify specific situations that are causing us pain and apply this affirmation. And there is nothing my holiness cannot do.
You know what? That really resonates with me.
Oh, yeah.
When my dog was sick, remember how worried I was?
I do, yeah.
Repeating that affirmation really helped me stay calm and focused on caring for him, even though there was so much uncertainty.
Yeah, that's a great example of how this seemingly simple affirmation can provide so much strength in a really challenging situation.
Yeah.
It's about tapping into that wellspring of inner resilience that the lesson suggests is available to us through our holiness.
Okay, and the lesson goes on to say in point 5, you might for example, to include thoughts such as, there is nothing my holiness cannot do because the power of God lies in it. Introduce whatever variations appeal to you, but keep the exercises focused on the theme. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. The purpose of today's exercises is to begin to instill in you a sense that you have dominion over all things because of what you are.
So this idea of dominion, it's not about controlling others or forcing outcomes, but it's about recognizing that we possess the inner resources to navigate challenges and make choices that are aligned with our inherent holiness.
Right.
You know, it suggests that by recognizing our own holiness, we can shift our perspective and approach difficulties with like a newfound sense of agency.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed by, say, that stressful project at work,
Exactly.
this lesson is saying that we can tap into the strength of our holiness to approach it with a sense of calm and capability.
Precisely. It's inviting us to reframe our understanding of ourselves and our potential, recognizing the power that lies within through this concept of holiness.
It seems like this lesson is offering like a profound shift in perspective.
It is.
It encourages us to move beyond limitations
Yeah.
and access a source of strength that can transform how we navigate the world.
And that leaves us with a question for you to consider.
Okay.
How might acknowledging your own inherent holiness change the way you approach challenges and interact with others? Something to reflect on as you go about your day. Of course.
I know, I will.
Good.
Thanks for joining me for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
I woke up to a miracle today.